So welcome back, guys, to another video, race number 1. Let's get into it. Obviously, the announcement yesterday of Adrian Newey, or earlier this week, of Adrian Newey joining Aston Martin is absolutely massive. Aston Martin seems certain to be a dominant team in the future now with the likes of Adrian Newey and the engineers that he can attract to the team, right? There's no shadow of a doubt he will be able to recruit some very skilled personnel to the team, which is great. It's what Aston Martin have needed, and fair play to Lance Stroll for getting it. However, one key thing that we've seen, obviously, Adrian Newey has now had a lot of publicity. Not that he wasn't already in the media, but he's been given more interviews, more time to add some comments to the media, and we've sucked it all up. Literally everything that he said. There's been so many press releases, so many newspaper articles, so many internet articles about what Adrian Newey is saying, which is absolutely fine, and he's an F1 genius, and he speaks a lot of the truth. However, this is going to cause a massive debate. So here we have it, guys. It's been reported by several different websites, Sky Sports, ESPN, everyone, BT Sport, pretty much everyone in Formula 1. Right, so Adrian Newey criticises Sky, which is a TV service, obviously, nationalistic F1 coverage against Max Verstappen. So he sat down with a interview or podcast with Jake Humphries, and he was talking about how do we think, or how did Max behave in the 2021 season, obviously going up against Lewis. You know, he's commented, I think he comments further down that, yeah, it was his first real battle, and it was, you know, there was an element of Max was feeling the pressure. But then he does go on to say that, you know, from the outside, I'm not sure people fully appreciate and understand Max, just like they didn't with Sebastian. And also how we, you know, the British media don't with also Fernando Alonso. Let's not forget that. Fernando Alonso is also not hated by the media, but if he does anything to a British driver or cause damage, you know, and Fernando's mentioned it a few times that, you know, the British media are very, very heavily favoured, you know, for the Brits. I don't know the solution. I don't know how the solution. Is it because Formula 1 is just so big and so popular in the UK? Obviously, Sky Sports are investing heavily in Formula 1. It's, you know, it's the one that they really care about. Obviously, they like a lot of other sports, but it's the one they're fully investing, and they've managed to own the rights for it for a number of years. But very interesting what Adrian Newey says here. So if we read the article that's been posted on crash.net, it goes on to say, Adrian Newey has hit out at Sky Sports nationalistic F1 coverage, which led to the demonisation of Red Bull drivers Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen over the years. Sky has been the UK's F1 broadcaster since 2012, taken over from the BBC. Now, key thing to note here, I can't remember that Seb was really demonised. Like, I know Seb made some silly mistakes coming up in his career. You know, we talk about multi-21 Seb. What was that with Mark Webber? Things that kind of, like, you know, you brought on yourself by not being a team player. That had nothing to do with your nationality. Like, you either play the team game or you don't, but then don't get upset when people don't call you a team player, etc. People don't really warm to you. Now, Sky's introduction into F1 coincided with Red Bull's dominance with Vettel, who won 4 straight world titles. Fast forward a decade, it's Verstappen who has won 3 consecutive drivers' titles and is on for a 4th in 2024. Both Vettel and Verstappen were seen as Lewis Hamilton's main rival over the last decade, with various titles and on-track incidents. I don't remember there actually being that many with Sebastian Vettel. There was a few, but not to the likes that we're seeing, or we did see with Max. It was almost like every weekend in that 2021 series, something would happen, and it was crazy. Red Bull, in actual fact, boycotted Sky's coverage during the 2022 Mexico Grand Prix weekend after they were unhappy with a claim made that Hamilton was robbed of the title in 2021. Now, I think this was down to Ted Kravitz. Ted, he is British media through and through, right? But he speaks the truth. So we all know what happened in 2021 in the season finale at Abu Dhabi. It was incorrect, right? It never should have happened. Everyone knows this, right? So if you just speak the truth, people don't like it, but it is the truth. Regardless of what people say, it is the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts. And they're not saying it to say that, Max didn't deserve the championship that year. Max and Red Bull arguably did. But the way in which Max won it was incorrect. Okay, that's the thing I don't think Red Bull see from their side. I think they see it as, oh, you're saying that we didn't deserve to win. No, Red Bull, it was a brilliant season. It was probably one of the best seasons we've had in the last decade, if not longer. Right? It was absolutely perfect, what all Formula One fans want to see. But he didn't necessarily win it in the right way, and because the British media are calling that out, that's not an attack on you. That's more of an attack on the guys that were in charge of the FIA, and how they handled everything was atrocious, plain blank atrocious. But here we go. So here's Adrian Newey's comments. From the outside, I'm not sure people will fully appreciate and understand Max, just like they didn't with Sebastian. Because of, first of all, there's a sort of demonisation that both of them suffered at times, which I think is very unfair. Maybe that's also a little bit of the British media. If I'm honest, Sky has a huge influence around the world. Their viewing is truly international, but their coverage is quite nationalistic, dare I say, and that can have an influence. Newey feels that Verstappen is still underrated, particularly with how he's able to drive an F1 car automatically, which likened a comparison to Fernando Alonso. Interesting. I would say this is the trouble with Formula One, right? Good drivers always look good when they're in a good car. A prime example, Fernando Alonso. Yeah, we know he's a brilliant driver. But if you don't have the car, you can't really prove it week out. Or you don't get any accolades for just being a good driver. I'd say Lewis Hamilton is a good driver. Right? I'd say Max, is a good driver. Fernando is a good... Charles Leclerc, I'd say, is a good driver. Okay? Newey feels that Verstappen is still underrated, particularly when it comes... Oh, read that bit. It also feels as if Verstappen can drive the car automatically. Newey added, he doesn't, of course, but he can drive the car and have so much processing power left over that he can then think a lot about how he is driving the car, how he's looking after the tyres, what he might need to do in the settings, or if he's not sure, who's race engineer on the radio, what he should be doing, but highlighting the problems. Reading the race still fascinates me. Fernando is another one that can do that. He seems to be able to read the race, but they haven't got all the stuff in front of them. Interesting. So obviously, it's been announced that he's joining Aston Martin, obviously. So he's talking up there about Fernando Alonso, which is great. But equally, that's just the same as what the likes of Lewis Hamilton can do. All the great drivers. Carlos Sainz, he does it numerous times. He's one step ahead, it almost feels, of his race engineer, which is somewhat worrying because your race engineer should really be one step ahead of you, because obviously you're driving the car, it's stressful, you've got everything going on. Nonetheless, is the British media toxic? Is the British media too toxic? That is the question. Because if they are, what is going to change? And how does it get changed? Will it ever get changed? I very much doubt it. I can't see there ever being a rule change. Or, not a rule change, but I can't ever see there being a change unless worldwide more countries get involved in Formula One and have their own commentary, their own TV presentations, their own opinions and voices and justifications being heard over and over again on the radio or even on TV. If you look at Formula One, there's so many British media people that just enjoy Formula One and want to make a comment, but you don't really seem to have that so much. We see a lot of British British drivers, ex-drivers, they're working for Germany F1 or Germany Sky F1, for example, or DAZN, working for Spanish DAZN channel. There's not enough, say European, there's not enough other countries that are heavily involved in Formula One in terms of